Rushmore, the one that we couldn't figure out who was up there. Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt. Because he all in this,
Yeah,
got his
You
own
guys are
little,
hot. You
we're
guys are
hot.
hot.
We're
he got
hot.
his own little backboard.
Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool.
KP, I don't
Times
like this
three
mic.
tonight. Boom, boom,
What's
boom.
it?
Hey, I'm glad to see and be here tonight
Hello.
in Fresno, California, with my brother out of state, minding his business, doing his thing. And we have a special guest here tonight with his new top layer. This is my youngest son, Marcus Miller.
Hello, hello.
Hello, listen to that voice. Say that again.
What's up,
Hello.
Marcus?
Hey,
Little Barry?
hey.
Yeah. So he's he's a senior at Edison High, and we're gonna have a perspective from a younger person tonight. Two old crows and one new one.
Okie dokie.
How you doing out there, Darren?
I'm good. I'm good. It's getting dark out here. I just witnessed a Black Lives Matter rally on the corner of Main and 6th Street in Rapid City, South Dakota.
Were you the only black life that was out there?
Well, it was all white folks. About a dozen white folks out there hollering, what do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now.
They didn't
it's
tell you
all
to
over
take
the
off
place.
running?
No. I was watching.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. That's good. That's good. That's it. That's you see any deer or any buffalo? Don't get too
I
close.
did. Saw buffalo yesterday in Yellowstone. Those of you who have never been to Yellowstone, you got to go. It's interesting. Yellowstone is like a big cake that's been pushed up out of the earth.
You know why it's being
Elevated.
pushed up out the earth, right?
Probably all that thermal, because everything in there on the west side of it is all western. Well, kind of through the middle of it, from the west to the east, in the middle is all thermal activity. Got all kind of these hot spots and different things. A lot of ponds, a lot of lakes. It was interesting. And I
Yeah,
drove
it's a
up
it's a
along,
volcano, and it's
drove
rising
up
every
along
year.
on the Wyoming side, and as you driving along the side of it for about, came out in Cody, Wyoming. It was probably about an hour and a half at least drive into Montana. The whole time you're going along there, you're looking at it looked like I don't know how to describe it, like an elevated table, I guess. Because they said the average elevation in Yellowstone is at 8,000 feet, and we were at probably about 5,000 feet below it, driving along the side of it. So it was interesting.
Yeah, it's one of them natural sights, man.
Cool, cool.
Yep, there's 4 entrances, so we went in through the south, went all the way up to the north, spent the night in Montana, came back down, and went across, exited through the east into Wyoming, and then made a big old huge loop.
Cool.
But it's cool. I'm glad I came. I'll be able to mark 4 more states off as of tomorrow because I'm gonna go through Nebraska. So on this trip, I'll be able to mark off Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Nebraska.
Great. That's what I'm talking about. So on your way up there, you listen to any books or catch any?
No. I listen to my progressive radio. I listen to a couple different things. I've been listening to international radio to get their perspective
International
on
from
us.
where?
CNN and the BBC, BBC. Yeah, they think we're absolute idiots, dude.
Well, can you
They
blame
see
them?
us. They see the United States of America and us as absolute idiots. So,
Shout
but it's
out
just
to
interesting
Lisa
perspective.
Foster and Mona Bush and Andrew Coggins. If you are on, share so that we can pick up some viewers and some people and get a bigger, wider audience.
And tonight, by the way, those of you who are on, you will not be able to follow through my Facebook page. I don't know how to do it off my phone. So you have to follow through Gerald's tonight. So Gerald, you may want to post that also. If you get a chance.
Okay.
Hey, so anyway, while you're doing that, let me do my thing. Get your census
9
done.
questions.
Get your census done. 2020 census .org. Make sure that you're going in, registering everybody in your households. Real quick process, less than 5 minutes to be able to do that. And remember, the census is done by address, not by people. So you want to plug in your address, and then you type in how many people are in your particular who lives with you. If you have a son that lives with you part time and lives somewhere else part time, please mark them in there as a part time resident in your household. And then when they plug in onto the other household, then I'll mark them in as a half-time person inhabitant there as well. It's important for Fresno that we get that done to make sure we get our cut of the federal dollars when it's all distributed or divided in 2021. We want to make sure. Right now, Fresno's population is in 2010. It was at I want to say it was 525,000 people at that time. We're estimated to be around 560,000 now. When the census is all done and it all calibrates, I think we're going to be closer to 600,000 people. And so if we are if we have 600,000 people in our area, but we only account for 520, that's $80,000 or 80,000 people who will not be able to account for that money if we don't get them counted in our census. You do not have to be a citizen here legally. All you have to do is be here in the United States to be counted in our census. So those of you, my brothers and sisters who are not here or who are undocumented residents here in the United States, please make sure that somebody accounts for you, whether you do it yourself or whether somebody else does it. Please make sure that you're counted in the census as well.
Okay. Have you, you know who Nick Cannon is, correct?
I do.
He has a show on YouTube also, or a podcast. Have you heard of that or keeping up with that?
I have not, no.
It's called Cannon's Class.
What is he talking about?
He's talking about the same thing we're talking about, African American issues from his point of view, and he's had Joy DeGruy on there this last show.
Okay.
I listened to it last night. Very, very interesting. I advise everybody to go.
I hope he's better at this than he is as a comedian. Because as a comedian, he got a lot of work to do. But anyway, okay, I'll check it out. I got some time. Or driving for 30 hours, I got about 20 hours to get back, so I got some time to be able to find it and listen to a little bit of it.
And I've been also listening to White Fragility by Robin DeGruy. Have you heard of that?
I have heard of that. That's one of the books that was discussed. I actually talked about today. I have to pull up. I did listen to a lady today, and she mentioned that book.
Yeah, chapter 2 will explain to you racism and why. And she's a white lady and a Caucasian lady, and she explains.
What's her name?
Robin.
Was it Jane Elliott? No. Jane Elliott. Have you ever heard of Jane Elliott?
Yes, I have.
Okay, I had seen her before, but I never listened to her till today, and she mentioned that book.
Okay, yeah. Oh, it's Robin DiAngelo with White Fragility, and she'll explain in chapter 2 racism step by step, what makes you a racist, what divides racism from bigotry, and having a bias against others, even as racist. And you'll form the understanding that black people cannot be racist.
Yeah. Today, the conversation with Miss Elliott was real interesting also. She talked about, and she's got to be a Caucasian lady in her 70s, late 60s, early 70s. And she talked about that book. She talked about Nile Contributions to Civilization by Browder. And the other one she talked about was the book that has to do with law.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I can't, not Law Matters. It has to do with how she bases it, and it's true, about how segregation was internalized into our laws. I have to think about, I got a note in my phone about it, but she talked about she referenced those 3 books today. And then she's pretty deep. It was, unfortunately, I was going from North Dakota to South Dakota, and cell service ain't real good out there, and so it kept going in and out, in and out. So I wasn't able to keep up with the whole conversation. But I would suggest that if people get an opportunity to listen to some of the work of Jane Elliott, to do so. Caucasian lady, like I said, in her late 60s, early 70s, who will tell you straight right off that all of us, there's, first of all, her first premise is there was one race. That is the human race. There is no race is not dictated by our color or our ethnicity or our origin, whatever continent we come from. There was one race, that is the human race. So that's a misnomer that you and I have talked about before. But the other thing she talked about is that all races come from the Nile River Valley. And that all of us, if you go back and look at your DNA, and you do a non-biased job of looking at it, all of our DNA is going to have some roots and some traces back to the African continent. And I thought that was interesting coming out of her mouth, because she said it without apology.
And she's been saying that for years. She
Yeah,
did
I'm
it.
surprised.
Go
Yeah, I'm
ahead.
surprised I haven't heard of heard her name before.
She just did a about an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes on Ti's podcast expeditiously. So she talks to him and lays it out. It's pretty interesting. So that's something else you can sign up and listen to for that understanding and her understanding. No, there I agree with her. There's only one race, that's the human race. And there is no white and there is no black. There are only shades in between. The problem is the construct of race, which was put forth by Europeans so that they could exercise your champion. Uh, what do you always say? No
My
dynamite. No,
champion?
no, no. Boom goes the dynamite tonight for me. Yeah. Capitalism. Capitalism. Yeah. There's got
Uh,
to be a top. Got to be a bottom. Something's got to be pushed, in order for someone else to win in the society that we live in.
yeah, Miss Elliott talked about that a little bit also. She said that race is a construct that was brought up around 600 years ago, 700 years ago, and she said that what happened was is that during that period of time, Christians were being prosecuted or persecuted, and that people couldn't tell Catholics from Christians from you know any other person just because of the color of their skin. They were persecuting people because of religion. And so what happens is because in her estimations, because the color of people's skins, in particular the Muslims at that time, they're and people out of the African continent, they had darker skin. It was easier for them to be identified. But you're absolutely correct. It was a matter of selection, dividing the people and grouping people. And so, like you said, capital. I don't know if capitalism was around then, but it was a way of making one particular skin color, I don't know, and more important than the other. And so she said, yeah, this is a 500, 600-year experiment, not experiment, but project that has been going on. It's going to be very, very, very difficult to undo.
Yeah, well, education is the key. Once people realize the truth, then we can all get on to loving on each other. However, the construct is if you're in a cold climate and you got to compete with your family structured for survival, then you're going to take them out. You're going to survive. You're going to do what you need to do to survive. So that's one of the issues with race. The people who are pushing that ideology of survival and capitalism and don't look like you and I, so they don't have a social, or as they're afraid of, a socialist structure where everybody can eat at the table. Only the biggest, the brightest, and the people with the property can eat at the table.
If you go back and look at the different cultures in particular African cultures, Native American cultures. It is all about community. It's all about socialization. One of the things on this trip, I was able to go by a museum yesterday in Cody, Wyoming, where they talked about the natives and the way that the different tribes and the whole trail of, not the, I guess it wouldn't be the Trail of Tears, because the Trail of Tears took the Native Americans into Oklahoma. It was the other ones that were coming out of up around Canada and stuff, and how they worshipped, how they worked together, how they harvested crops, how they didn't corral buffalo because they needed meat. What they did is they picked up and they followed the buffalo. Wherever the buffalo migrated to, that's where the Native Americans went also, because they didn't see the buffaloes as being theirs. The buffaloes was basically when they needed to make clothes and they needed to get food, the buffalo provided that for them. And it wasn't a matter of that they would put them in corrals and those type of things, which was the European or the Western civilization coming out in this particular area. So it's just a whole different mindset that I think kind of plays out today. Marcus, you awfully quiet. What you think?
About what? What do you? I don't understand what you guys mean. Like, I don't know what to say about that. It's just I don't know that much.
How do you view people of different ethnicities
As human beings? Simply,
Exactly.
yeah, simply as human beings. Like nobody, I don't look at anybody as better than me, but I give everybody an equal plane to express themselves and be themselves. They're also human beings, so I got to treat them as such, pretty much.
Okay, let me ask you this question, and let me ask you the question this way: how do you define a cool person? What characteristics would what characteristics would a cool person have if Michael or if Marcus Miller was making this person?
Cool. Okay. Somebody who gets along with everybody. Oh, somebody who gets along with everybody and simply carries himself as a I don't know, like a nice, relaxed person who gets along with everybody, pretty much. Yeah, I don't really. Can you define cool? Like, what you mean by cool?
I mean, so when I was your age, when I was 17 years old, a cool person to me was a person who played sports.
Okay.
It was an athlete. Those are the people that I hung out with. Those are the people who I ran around with. Those are the people. It was my athlete, my friends from Roosevelt High School that I played sports with. When I got into college, it was my fraternity brothers that I hung out with. As I got now, it's some of the cool people that I hang out with are the political people that I deal with. My generation saw cool people way differently than I think than your generation does. And so just asking, you didn't even put people into, you didn't classify people by what they did or what they were doing. You classified people by their personalities. So whether they're an athlete, whether they sung in the choir, whether they were a nerd, whether they're part of LGBT, whether they're black, white, green. You, as a 17-year-old, I see that you define coolness a little bit differently than I would have at 17.
Well, I mean, I'm an athlete personally, so a lot of my friends are athletes, and I hang out with a lot of athletes. So, but I'm also surrounded by people who would be considered like nerds because I like to broaden my horizon in the classroom. So I have different friend groups, but I'm not gonna call the athletes more of a cool person than the nerd that gets along with me. I classify them all as the same level of cool, I guess you could call it. Yeah.
So how do you define the opposite end of the spectrum? A bad person. I would call them an ASS. One of them stinky things. How would you define that type of person?
Somebody who just
A
is
person,
a bully,
or a person that you wouldn't hang out with, an uncool person.
a
How would you
bully,
define them?
somebody who bullies people into giving them what they want or trying to get over on people because nobody likes a bully, pretty much. So if the person doesn't get along with anybody, you have to take a step back and be like, okay, you're the problem. I can't be around you. Now I'm going to be considered a bully by default because I'm letting it happen, pretty much. So, yeah, pretty much a bully, somebody who doesn't get along with people.
And okay, so and think about this:
Hmm.
the people that I described to you, the units that I described to you, my athletic friends, my fraternity brothers, the political people I deal with now, there are all elements of bullying that goes into it.
So then I wouldn't want to surround myself with who you would call your friends then, pretty much. Because from my experience in Fresno Unified, or even being a 17-year-old teen, bullies don't ever, they're not, nobody likes to bully, pretty much. So I don't want to surround myself with somebody who nobody likes and nobody gets along with, because then I'm stunning my growth and I'm not able to excel in what I want to get done, pretty much. So
I
it's
hear
like,
you.
yeah, okay,
So let me define what I mean by bullying in my generation.
okay.
What I would define as some of the people who perpetuated bullying would be the captains on athletic teams, would be the starters, would be this, on a varsity team, it would be the seniors, and not the juniors or the sophomores. In my fraternity, it would be the brothers who are already in, bullying and doing, I should say bullying, but having certain aspects of bullying with the pledges or the new members who are coming in. There's all kind of different, community aspects that I grew up with where bullying was part of this maturation process, and it no longer is seen in that way. I can remember when I was playing. This is when I was playing semi-pro football. One of the kickers. Actually, I'm sorry. That was when I was coaching. It wasn't when I was playing. It was when I was coaching arena football. One of the kickers came out. One of the new kickers came on the team. Kept screwing around, and the lineman athletic taped him to the goalpost. I mean, where he couldn't get away. They used so much athletic tape on him, taped him to the goal, held him there, and taped him to the goalpost. That's a form of bullying.
Yeah. Well,
But
not,
No,
not
I
necessarily.
wouldn't. I wouldn't say
actually.
that's a form of bullying. That's a form of social construction.
Well, bullying has to do with what I've been taught. Bullying is a series of occurrences. So if they taped him to the goal every day when I went out, or to the goalpost, when I went out there every day, after day after day, and just kept taping him to the post, then that's a form of bullying. But bullying has to occur over some time. That doesn't sound like it occurred over some time. So,
What do you guys think would happen? You play football, Edison
Yeah.
High School. If at your next practice, your team took your kicker and athletic taped him to the goalpost.
so if
Do
they
you
tape
think it would
me
be
to the
seen?
goalpost, okay,
But that's a
kick.
difference. But you got different rules and regulations as far as grown men taping this young person to the goalpost rather than in a high school setting.
In high school, it wouldn't be. I wouldn't call it bullying. It's just. I would call it bullying if they tape me to the goal every day, after day after day. Because back to the definition of bullying, it has to occur more than once, and it doesn't occur more than. I wouldn't let that occur more than once. Like,
I wouldn't let it
at some
occur
point,
more
you got to
than
be
once.
able to. If it happened one time, you got to be able to run the other direction or get away from the heat that's coming after you. Basically, I don't see that
Okay.
situation happening.
I just think, being in education, that would, even if it's one time, something to that magnitude where you're taping a kid to, or a young man or a young girl to a goalpost, or tying them down to where they are no longer in control. I think that there's going to be some issues, and the parents, and I think the rules, the societal rules of what goes on in education would see that as a form of bullying. I agree with you, though, Marcus. You're absolutely right about your definition. Bullying is defined as a repeated act over time, although there are circumstances where there has been accusations of bullying based on just a single incident.
That's called an assault.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's use a better
Yeah, I
word.
think all of this are called an assault.
Let's
No,
use-
isn't it a battery also because of making a contact, or is it just an assault?
Well, it's an assault and battery. Assault is an attempted battery, but someone grabbing you and taping you to a goalpost would be, yeah, assault and battery. One time, of course, it's going to be why did they do it? If Marcus is running around out there with a towel, slapping people in the back of the neck and just causing a disruption, yeah, I can see them taking him to the goalpost and taping him to the goalpost as a corrective measure for his behavior. It would be no different than a coach telling him to run laps.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm always interested, especially when I get an opportunity to talk to a young person about their perspective and how 35 years removed or 30 years removed, how some of the things that you and I did, Gerald, when we were 16, 17, 18 years old, now you can't do them, and they're seen in a criminal light.
Well, yeah, it's two different.
It has nothing to do with being African
different
American, those type of things. They're just things in general that we did that are no longer acceptable to a point of being criminal. So interesting. Hey, so are we going to talk politics tonight, or you want to talk more society?
Yeah, we can talk politics. What type of politics do you want?
So you want to talk about? I wanted to talk about Trump. Either we do it today or we can do it next week. The other thing I wanted to talk about, also to follow up on, was we got kind of cut off last week when we talked about policing reform.
Yeah. Did you get your definition straight?
Which one?
Defunding the police.
Yeah. Defund means to eliminate.
Okay,
D means to eliminate.
All right, keep working on it. It's not a total.
No.
And everybody I've asked has said the same thing. It's not a total taking of dollars away from the police. It's taking a portion of the funding from the police and put it into social issues and problems so that these children that we're talking about won't go out to these athletic places and create disturbances so that they can get the mental help because of some of the social issues that they have. Could be in school or at home. And
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying. But when you say defund,
no, you say
means
defund.
Eliminate.
Okay, all right. Don't need to argue the point.
I understand what you mean, and I agree with what you mean. That there should be allocations, there should be funding from the police department that's removed from them and sent to other departments, social workers, education, those type of things. I agree. But when you say defund, D means eliminate.
Okay, you've said that several different times. And unless you're going to go out and convince the whole of the world that your definition is correct and right, you can just save it. I've talked to 15 different people, and they say the same thing.
Okay. So 10 or 15 people need to go back in there and take a look at their prefixes so they understand the prefix that they're using of D. It means to eliminate, remove. Okay? And so I share. I agree, but the terminology is a little cumbersome for me. Marcus, let me ask you. Did you keep up with our discussion last week about the police reform?
Kind of. A little bit.
Okay, so as a 17-year-old, I know I'm putting you on the spot. I apologize.
That's fine.
But what are your feelings about the police department and the way that they are serving the community? What's your perspective?
In Fresno?
Yeah, Fresno in general, whatever you're comfortable answering.
Well, given that my dad was a police officer for so long, it's there's some good cops and there's some bad cops. pertaining to which part of the city you're living in or from or daily existing is. I can say for the West Side, going to Edison, they're treated a little bit differently by the police department than rather being towards the Bullard side of town. That's the only way I can describe it right now. But they're treated differently, and you can use, for example, like football games. I played football, and whenever Edison plays, there's a ton more police officers there because we're considered the rowdy school or the gang bangers, and we just have a general bad representation on the Edison name on the West Side. The police, they do their job, but there's some bad apples at the same time. Everybody knows that.
Let me cut you off for just 1 second. So just from my perspective of being an official, a referee, refereeing high school sports here in this area in the Central Valley for the last 30 years, guess who is the worst contest you could ever have as far as rowdiness of the players and people in the stands?
In Fresno, or I don't.
In the Central Valley, from Bakersfield, in our section, the central section, from Bakersfield to Chowchilla, what would be the worst matchup you could have historically and then more recently? I'll give you 2 examples.
When you say when you say worst, do you mean as in like fights or like just like
the conflict on the field? Yeah, the conflict on the field, the bad blood on the field, as well as in the stands with the parents yelling and screaming at each other, yelling and screaming at officials, having to be removed from the stand because of their actions and their activities.
Okay. Oh, recently, Edison versus Sanger, or Edison versus Bullard. But those are the only games that I've been to in the past 3 years.
Exactly.
Because I played football there.
Garces and San Joaquin Memorial. Call it the Holy Bowl.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Probably the worst game you could ever get on your schedule because of the kids' activities, their behaviors on the field, the parents and the fans in the stands. And I've seen this as being an official on the field as well as being in the stands watching the game. Watching parents have to be removed out of the stadium because they won't. They're down on the sidelines yelling and screaming at the other team and all that kind of stuff. The other one, which is kind of more recent, is Sanger and Clovis East.
Yeah, I heard about that.
They've got a nasty little rivalry that's going on right now also, that it goes beyond just being competitive on the football field. And so when you're saying what your perspective about that the heavy hand of the law is there at the Edison football games, I totally agree with you, but just from a different perspective. There should be more officers and cops at Clovis East and Sanger until they sort out what's going on with them. There should be more cops and a heavy hand of the law at the Garces Memorial football and basketball. Basketball is just as bad. You got in the basketball games, you got racial slurs coming out from against one another, and so it's just interesting having that perspective from seeing it as an official.
So the question is, why do you think that is the social construct of this area that Edison would have be more heavily policed than those other 2 that you mentioned?
It goes along the lines of everything else that we've been talking about the demonization of Americans and African culture.
Did you say
everything that's
demonization of
African, everything that's
Americans, or
black.
did you say demonization of Americans or African Americans?
African Americans. Demonization of everything black, everything dark, and it's been going on since when we were kids. This new heavy-handed of policing didn't just start. It's been going on for a long period of time.
400 years.
But I mean, I'm just talking about here locally, from Marcus's perspective. Edison has always gotten, and Roosevelt also, has always had the heavy hand of law enforcement. Roosevelt was one of the first schools to have a police officer on campus. I want to say it was Roosevelt and Fresno High, wasn't it, Drew? Or was it Fresno High? Roosevelt and McLean. We were one of the first two schools to have police officers on campus. And the only reason why they didn't have a police officer on campus at Edison at that time, Edison only had 1,000 kids, 1,200 kids for all 4 grades. That was during the period of time when Edison's enrollment was down. But we at Roosevelt, when we were about 3,000 kids, we had an officer there with us. And I can't remember if it was Fresno High or was McLean was the other campus that had the first police officers on campus. And our officer had a limousine business. I don't know if you remember this, Gerald, but he used to take people back. He used to go back and forth to the prom. I don't remember what his name is. So at Roosevelt, we had a total different perspective and interaction with the police department at the time. We were coaching. Remember, we were we used to help coach the Pig Bowl. The police department was for, I think it was my junior and senior year. It might have been my sophomore and junior year. For 2 years, the Roosevelt High School coaching staff, along with some of us players, coached the police team in the Pig Bowl when they played against the Sheriff's Department. Fresno High coached the Sheriff's Department. So we had a whole different perspective and a whole different relationship with the police department at that time, which does not exist now.
Yeah.
So just interesting. Just get your 17-year-old perspective. On the whole
policing African Americans at that heavy-handedness does not start in the 80s when we were around. It goes back 400 years with the slave catchers, and that's where modern-day police comes out of.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
the slave catchers, right?
Yes.
I got you. I understand.
Yes, sir.
So the political thing I was going to ask you about is, I'm assuming you've heard about Trump's niece's book that's coming out.
Yes.
Okay, and so it's going to be interesting. We really can't really talk about it too much because I haven't really read it. I've heard excerpts. People talk about excerpts from it. I guess the book gets released on Tuesday. But there is a new video that's out remember I brought up, we showed the video a couple weeks ago of the Lincoln Project, which is all conservatives. They got a new one. And I asked KP to pull it up. I think it's a minute long. So if you guys don't mind. KP, you there?
I'm good. What?
Here we go.
So this is the new Lincoln Project's advertisement. They just started. I think they started yesterday.
Biden now leads the president.
He's going to be your president.
Why do you think you're losing, Donald?
Because some people don't love me, maybe.
It's because you've got a loyalty problem. Loyalty problem. They're in your campaign. They're in your campaign. Your White House. Your White House. In Congress. In Congress. Even your own family. Your own family. They whisper about you. They whisper about you. They leak, spin, lie. They tell the media they're smart and you're out of control. And you're out of control. That you can't focus. Can't focus. That you're mentally and physically weak. Physically weak. That you hide in your bunker, scared and shaky. Laugh when you can't walk down a ramp or drink water. All of them, they're in your campaign. The ones you know and the ones you don't know. The ones you don't know. Whispering about you. Whispering about you. The ones you don't know. They expect you to lose. They expect you to lose. They want the media to like them and to get one last big payday before you go down. With so many leaks, you probably think it could be anyone. So many leaks. Donald, it could be anyone. It's everyone. It's everyone.
They're sending out right now. And it is no doubt that the reason why they're doing this is to get under their skin. They know that this dude is very, very immature and can't handle criticism. And it's going to be interesting to find out what his response is, not just verbally in the tweeting and stuff, but what his response is going to be in his actions, given that these people are sending this stuff out and then the book coming out from his niece. So
I don't think he's going to change his course of action. The only thing he can do is quit.
Yeah, but it in order for him to quit, he's going to have to convince those people that propped him up into the presidency that he can quit. There's no doubt in my mind that he is a puppet. That he is a puppet, not for an individual, but he is a puppet for a group of people who have worked very diligently for a long period of time to get this exact moment into the United States presidency. And if he think he can just pull a ripcord and be able to eject himself out of that, he don't get it. He should understand that, though. He's a cat that's been around the mafia. Once you're in, you're in. You don't get out without death. And so he should understand that concept. But it's going to be interesting. The other thing is it's going to be scary for the next, 6 months? I think 6 months and a couple of days. It's going to be interesting on one side, scary on another side to see exactly what he does and how he reacts. But he's getting pressure.
I don't think it's gonna be scary. I think that when he's done, he's gonna do like all children on the playground, pick their ball up and go home, or they're gonna turn, cuss everybody out, give everybody the finger, and go home, or sit in the middle of the park and cry. He's not gonna lash out. He's not gonna do anything. He understands that he'll get the butt kicking of his life, and possibly get murked.
Oh yeah, he gonna wind up having some mysterious death. There's no doubt about that.
So the question then it becomes, who are they going to run in his place? If they already feel that, if the Republican Party already feels that they're going to lose, that they want to put somebody in that place where they can have at least a shooter's chance of winning.
So what is a win for the Republican Party and the conservatives as we know it now? What's a win for them? How do they define winning and losing? Is it the presidency, or would it be getting rich? Would it be that the conservative
power and control, maintaining the power structure of the presidency, the Senate, the House, so that they can put their law? How many people has Donald Trump put in as federal judges?
Exactly.
200,000-300,000?
Exactly.
I'm not 100, but 100,000, 200,000?
What do you mean? People?
People. How many judges has Donald Trump made since the 3.5 years that he's been in there? That's the most destructive thing that he's done.
Yeah, I want to say it's 200. He's put in place 200 federal judges, all across the United States and all the different federal courts.
So what that says, what that does is lay the foundation for the next 40, 50 years that there'll be a conservative ruling in the federal courts.
Exactly. So it's not about the presidency. So they ain't worried about Donald Trump.
The president is the one who did it. He's the one that put those people in place.
Correct. But he's like toilet tissue now.
So you ask me what's the most important to those folks? It's just maintain and stay in power.
Correct. It's not Donald Trump, and that's what I'm saying. They're gonna cut him loose. He's like toilet paper.
Well, you still haven't answered my initial question of who do you think they're going to put in his place to run?
Donald Duck. Doesn't matter. They've already got what they want. They got the tax reform where they got the only people who are making out well right now. You think these people are not greedy?
Because you're talking like as if they've mission accomplished. We've done what we need to do. But the reality of it, you can't be that short-sighted.
The federal judges that they just appointed will probably serve in those capacities, unless they get impeached, for the next 40 years.
I just said that.
But that's not about Donald Trump. That's about the presidency.
The question is about who are they going to put in place to replace Donald Trump so that they can maintain power and continue to do what they're doing. That's what the question is.
I got you. It doesn't matter, and I'm trying to get you to understand, it doesn't matter who they put up for president. The damage is done. They're going to have, so think about this. If for the next 5 presidencies, I got you, but listen, if there's the next 5 presidents are all Democratic or progressive presidents, they can't undo what he's done with those 200 appointments in the federal courts. They can't. He can't undo that.
That was the point that I made a few minutes ago, but that's not what I'm asking you. You asked me a question about what do they want. They want to maintain their power. And if Donald Trump is gone, then they can't, the hose is cut off.
Not for the federal courts, they're not.
Dude, come on, man.
You can't.
Really?
The only
You're
way
killing me.
The only way you can get rid of a federal.
That's not what I'm asking you. That has been established. Let's jump over that hurdle and answer the question that I asked you.
It doesn't matter.
Okay,
right now,
all right, we're done. We're done.
Donald Trump. The Republicans are running Donald Trump. And they, for the most part, if you look at it, they're already chalking that up as a loss. They've made their money off of him. The one percenters are making their money based off of the tax cuts he did, based off of some of the other. Look at what they just did with the CARE Act. All these different people with all these the House of Representatives and these senators and their wives and husbands who all got money out of this CARE Act stuff. They're already making their riches, so they're cashing in. They're getting out as much as they can right now. The lingering damage of Donald Trump is going to be what he did with the federal courts. It can't be undone. You can impeach him to pull him out or die to get him out, but you cannot undo that. So his damage is done. The Republicans has gotten as much out of him as they can. He's like toilet paper. Don't nobody reuse toilet paper. So I got you.
No, you don't.
But I do. Republicans are about the long game. They don't. Okay. We just have different perspectives. And I'm learning even more that it's not about today. It's not about this presidency. It's about the long game. And what we should be asking is, who are those people going to run in 2024? 2020 is done. 2020 is done. The hay is in the barn. Unless something miraculous happened, Donald Trump is toilet paper. He was useful when we had him on the rack. As soon as you use him and flush him down the toilet, or as soon as you use him, you flush him. And he was allowed to be used. He allowed himself to be used. So the thing that we're going to have to worry about, though, for the next 40 years is those 200 federal judges that he has stacked the courts with. Now, I'm talking about the Supreme Court. I'm talking about the ones, the appeal courts, and all those other courts across the whole United States that we're going to have to worry with for the next 40 years. And you'll see. They're going to be changing, attacking a woman's right to choose. They're going to be attacking the voter people's ability to vote. And some of those lawsuits are coming out now. So, but conservatives about the long game. They don't care about what happens today. They're worried about what's going to happen in the long. Because actually, this right now, if you go back and read about him, what's happening right now, Donald Trump, is an accumulation of things that have been happening on the conservative side since Ronald Reagan, since 1980. So okay. It's funny when you get silent like that. That means you ain't agreeing, but that's okay.
No, I've expressed it to you. I've already told you that I agree with you about the courts. I'm the person that brought that up in this conversation, and you're nailing that down. I asked you a question: who do you think they're going to run? You answered it, and then said Donald Trump. And then you went immediately back to talking about the courts and the damage that he's done in the courts. I think the greater thing, because that's already happened and is established, the courts, I think they're going to be trying to hold on to the Senate. I think the point that your Lincoln Club is putting out ads like this, they're not going to just concede the presidency. They're not. That's not how that mindset functions. So that's what I was asking. They're in a fight for more than just the presidency.
You can still win the war losing battles. And that's the mindset that politicians have always taken on. That you can lose a battle, but you don't want that loss in that battle to affect the overall win in the war. And that's the way that the Republicans, the conservative side of this ledger, sees it. If they don't get the presidency, I agree with you. The Senate is something that they really, really, really want to hang on to, but I think they're going to be hard pressed to hang on to the Senate because of all of the damage that the Trump presidency has done to the conservative brand. There are some they're talking about Arizona being in play for the Democrats. They're talking about Florida being in play for the Democrats. They're talking about Georgia, North Carolina, Montana in Senate races. And it's there are places that have never been, or not should say never, but more recently have not been in play for the Democratic Party that are now in play because because of all the damage and carnage that the Trump presidency has done. So it's just interesting. I mean, that's just my perspective on what I hear, what I listen to, what I read about on a regular basis. But it's going to be interesting. And my only thing is, I'm curious to see how how the next 6 months plays out. But I'm also kind of very concerned about Donald Trump and the damage that he really could do, and some of the trajectories that he could set us on, given that he knows that he's in a position to be defeated.
Well, I'm not really concerned. I understand why you're concerned, but I'm more concerned about the day-to-day activities of my children circumnavigating the society, my wife, my mom, my dad, you, African Americans circumventing this society with his supporters sliding down that tree and not understanding that their power base is getting ready to come up short. You know, the backlash, the attacks, those types of things in society. I don't care what Donald Trump does. I think the righteous mind will stop his activities. That's what I really believe.
But wouldn't you agree, though, that with the things that you just said that you're concerned about with the day-to-day operations and the backlash that we would see on a day-to-day basis is because of Donald Trump and what he's done in his presidency? Because I agree with you, but I believe that the things that the concerns that you're expressing is directly a result of the Donald Trump 4 years of presidency.
Because he's been in a position to okay the bad behavior of the people who don't understand that racism's time is up, and the cat calls and hollers to those folks who are talking about a revolution and those types of things. We don't, every 4 years we vote, and that's your silent revolution. Somebody tried to charge me with Donald Trump has been the most excoriated, is that the word, president in history. And I say that you have a short memory about how they treated Barack Obama, like him or not. The truth is the truth. There's no way in the world Donald Trump has taken more abuse than Barack Obama. So it's the unenlightened or people who don't have that understanding that scare me. People can be looking at the forest and missing the bushes that are in front of them on fire. And that's the thing. We're like we discussed earlier in the show. We're all human beings. We should all be able to move and get along in this society. But there's certain people who think that they have certain rights, such as these Karens that are being labeled out there. You know, they're why are they now acting out and doing the things that are, this is not new behavior. Why is this behavior now surfacing to the top? Is it a direct reflection on Donald Trump? I would say that some of it is, but it's
It's a
more of
reaction. I would say
it's
it's
more
a
of our
reaction.
society growing up and maturing as a society as a whole. And so there's no more place for those people like we talked about, the bullies, the bigots, the racists. They don't have a place to hide in our society.
Agreed. Agreed. Here's the one difference I would have, though, talking about Donald Trump and Barack Obama. The excoriation that Barack Obama received, he didn't earn. He didn't deserve it, and he didn't earn it. The excoriation that Donald Trump is receiving, he earned it. He earned it because of his actions and the things that he has done. I don't want to compare which one was worse, which one was better.
This is kind of
both of them,
a thing to
received
say,
a lot of
but
heat.
a bullet in the ass is a bullet in the ass.
Right. So a bullet in the ass. So Barack Obama got a bullet in the ass, but he didn't get a bullet in the ass because of what he deserved. He didn't deserve a bullet in the ass. Donald Trump got a bullet in the ass because he deserved a bullet in the ass. He was doing things that perpetuated somebody shooting him in the ass. So they both got bullet holes in their ass. One was earned, one was not earned. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so to your point, it doesn't matter. A bullet in the ass is a bullet in the ass, deserved or not. To the point that the guy came up to me and said was totally wrong. Donald Trump has not gotten more negative vigor or toxic animosities thrown toward him and his family than Barack Obama.
Donald Trump was impeached. Barack Obama was not.
So you think that because the correct action was taken toward Trump, that's worse?
No,
I don't understand what you're saying about he was impeached, but Barack Obama wasn't.
I would never say better or worse, less or more, and those type of things. I'm just telling you that both of them took a bullet in the ass. Both of them. Barack Obama took a bullet in the ass that was not deserved. Okay, you can base it on racism.
Your point makes no sense.
Okay, it makes total sense to me.
Of course it does.
Okay.
Of course it does.
Okay.
But what does the impeachment have to do with Barack Obama receiving his punishment?
It wasn't deserved. That's my point. He received a tremendous amount of negativity that was not earned. Donald Trump has received a tremendous amount of negativity, but his was earned. That's the difference. It's not a matter of more or worse or heavier or less or anything. They both received excoriating consequences for their actions. Okay.
For the action of becoming the president.
Well, if you put it that way, yes, the actions of becoming the president. But it actually is the amount, because that's how the question was proposed to me that I brought to the table. Not that it was deserved or not deserved. Do you think Donald Trump has gotten more negative vitriol toward him than Barack Obama? But that's the conservative playbook.
I don't give a damn about the conservative playbook. I'm asking you about truth in substance.
I just shared the substance.
Get off the
Barack
fence.
Obama.
Get off the fence.
Ain't no off the fence. Barack Obama, as you just said, received a bullet hole in the ass. I think you would agree with that, correct?
Make your point.
A figurative, huh?
Make your point.
Never mind. It's 10:02 anyway. I mean 9:02. So we're up against it anyway. We can pick this up again next week. So anyway, before I sign off, make sure you get your census done. 2020 census.org. Make sure you get that done. Also, make sure you're registering to vote. Remember, in California, we have a 100% vote by mail. So everybody who is a registered voter will be receiving their ballot at home. Then there'll be a couple of different ways, 3 different ways for you to be able to return that ballot. We'll talk more about that next week. Thank you, KP, for putting that on the Chiron at the bottom. Next week, I will be back in Fresno, God willing, corona free.
Please be corona free. Yes, shout out to my folks, Ryan, Lisa, Dennis, and Francisco in the EDR. Thanks for feeding me. I told you I was going to shout you out. Well, like I always say, it's time for you to go find that weapon and learn how to use that weapon so that you don't shoot yourself in the foot. Also, let's try to spread love and get along in this place we call this rock we call Earth. Before I give my love, peace, and hair grease, my son.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Long distance love, peace, and hair grease.